Welcome to Paranormal Palace Radio, where truth equals reality, and truth is often stranger than fiction.
Hello everyone, welcome to Paranormal Palace Radio. This is your host, Royce the Redneck Radio Man, and joining me today is going to be Scott Mandelker, and we're going to be talking about his new book that's out on, well actually I say new because I'm so used to saying it, so many authors coming up with new books, I'm not sure how long this one's been out, but it's From Elsewhere, E.T. in America, and he's got another one out, and I can't for the life of me remember the name of it right now, and for some odd reason, I don't know why I don't see it on my front page, but I'm going to try to give him a chance to tell us a little something about both of them. And he also does, work with people who are old souls that have memories of lifetimes on other places, if I understood him correctly. He's got a lot of interesting research that he's done. He's a psychologist and has a good degree in it. He's also studied Buddhism and other studies as well as far as ancient religion and spiritual teachings go. So I thought he would make a wonderful guest, and you people would like to hear a little something about him and what he does. So Scott, how are you doing today?
I'm fine. Thank you for having me on your show.
Well, I want to thank you for coming on the show. Usually what I like to do when I start out a show is ask my guests to introduce themselves and maybe tell everybody what it was that got them interested in this particular, line of research, study, or, what they're writing about.
Sure. First I'll explain the overview of what I do write about and what I teach and what work it is that I do. And then I can explain how it is that I got into that. So my first book was published in 1995. So it's 15 years old, 16 years old, and so it's not new, and it's in fact out of print and very hard to find copies of. The title is From Elsewhere, Being E.T. in America. And this was my PhD dissertation. So originally this was research that I did to get my PhD in East-West psychology from an accredited school in San Francisco called California Institute of Integral Studies. And before that, I also got an MA, Master's in Integral Counseling or Counseling Psychology. And before that, I got a bachelor's degree in Buddhist Studies from another school. The subject of the research for the PhD and the material of the first book, From Elsewhere, is the phenomenon that a lot of people in society in America, and I've met them from all over the world, believe that they are old souls, O-L-D, old souls, specifically that they are volunteered to come to Earth, enter or incarnate in human body, mind, just like everybody else, from another star system, another planet, another dimension, another soul group, at what we can call a higher level or a higher dimension of consciousness. So Jesus said, "My Father's house has many mansions," and some people believe that the inner meaning of that statement was the creation of God or the Father or the one creation has many dimensions. Just that. And all mystic religion, East and West, talks about spirits, spirits of light and dark, and other realms, other worlds, other dimensions or densities of life that are invisible, we can't see. So, this is the basis of any true spiritual teaching, which is, you're not just your body, and you don't just have one life to live.
Right.
There's soul, and there's cosmic plan, and there's life before birth, and there's life after death. So that's not a big deal, actually, but it's not obviously provable by human science on Earth. Fine. So I interviewed 25 people who all had some kind of experiences that led them to believe they are, they come from a group of elder extraterrestrials or elder beings, that they are from another world. So that's the title, From Elsewhere. And, again, this is not such a strange thing. And even in the Bible, there's a line about be careful how you treat people because you may be entertaining angels unaware. Meaning, some of the people that you may cross paths with are higher dimensional beings, and this is a test. And there's more going on here than meets the eye. So I interviewed these people and, got a sense of how it is that they came to that belief. Their personal experience, their childhood, their psychology, how that idea developed, and then the consequences of it. And I was interested in the subject basically because I had had many experiences myself, which would be categorized as out-of-body or paranormal. And by those, including ET contact, but not, ships coming down in the sky.
Right.
But dreams, visions, and out-of-body. Sometimes what appears to be a dream when you wake up in the morning and think about it wasn't a dream. It was it represented an out-of-body experience in which consciousness was in a finer form, which, esotericists call a astral body or something like that. So Robert Monroe, Journeys Out of the Body, very famous series of books.
Yeah, he's done a ton of work on that, and he's even got an institute for that.
Right. I was there, and I met Mr. Monroe, and I was there in the middle 80s, and had some very powerful and important experiences for myself there, and by use of hemi-sync technology. So that was very important for me 25 years ago. Now, the result of that was that I myself came to understand my own origin as of another dimension, and my place on Earth very similar in some ways to how these people think of themselves. So that research that earned the PhD was adapted to become a book from elsewhere. The second book is called Universal Vision, Soul Evolution and Cosmic Plan, and that was self-published in year 2000 and reprinted 2001. And so that's really the heart of what I teach, soul evolution and cosmic plan. That's the heart of what I believe personally. And so whatever I do in terms of seminars or writing or counseling, it's very much related to what I've learned on this life path. And how I got into it was simply that, from a young age, I had freedom of mind. I didn't have parents who controlled my mind. And I was able to not have to fight off expectations for how I would live and think and what I would become in this lifetime.
You were fortunate.
Yeah, well, that's good karma, It's all karma. It's all karma. And I assume that I must not have been heavy-handed to my children or to others in a past life, but encouraged their freedom of mind too. And so my parents didn't give me any trouble about that. They weren't perfect, but telling me what I should be and controlling my thought and my identity was not their thing. So from an early age, I enjoyed going my own way. And when I was in high school, I encountered Eastern religion. I had a friend whose father was a professor at a big university, and that guy was a real intellectual. He was 12 years old. He was already reading Gandhi. And, this is like New York City private school kind of thing. And by that, I developed interest in Chinese Taoism, like Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu, Zhangzi, Yi Jing. And from that, I entered Buddhism. Entered meaning I started reading, translations of the original works. In particular, something called Dhammapada, Dhammapada. Dhamma is the Pali language word for Dharma, which you've heard many people hear, Dharma, Karma, all that. Dhammapada is a book of what's considered to be the Buddha himself, his original words, or his words in certain situations with the monks 2,500 years ago. And so it had a really heavy effect on me reading that, and I felt great love for that teaching. And by the time I was 18, I was already starting meditation. By the time I was 20, I was already doing daily Buddhist meditation alone, and had dropped out of college at age 20. And from that, I lived in Buddhist temples in the U.S. and Asia. Basically Japanese Zen, Korean Zen, Thai, Theravadan, in East Coast, West Coast a little, or Midwest, the other parts of the U.S., Thailand and India. The travels to Asia at that time were not long, but I lived, in a forest temple in southern Thailand with monkeys and ant trains, and flying cockroaches. So that was a pretty heavy thing, and something broke in the mind, meaning a wall of thoughts of suffering in my mind broke, and I felt joy and greater freedom. And so much so then that I was done with being a hermit monk for that part of my life and returned to college. And so it took me 7 years to get my BA. And finally I got that in Boulder, Colorado, at a school that had been started by a Tibetan monk, Trungpa Rinpoche, Naropa Institute. So my BA in 87 was in Buddhist studies and psychology. But by that time I was already having out-of-body experience. And those out-of-body experiences would be considered ET contact and close association with higher dimensional teachers. And by that, and the experiences from HemiSync and the Monroe technology, and meditation, obviously, it all opened by meditation. Meditation had trained the mind to be receptive and allowed me to discover what I needed to know and have those contacts. And by that, I was sure that I was a wanderer too. And so the term wanderer with an A, wanderer, was used in some spiritual writings in the past and by the major source that I rely upon and I teach from. And wanderers are ET souls from higher dimensions that are associated with 4th, 5th, and 6th chakras, meaning the Indian, it's really not just Hindu, but a kind of mystic system of 7 energy centers called chakras. Chakra in Sanskrit means wheel, which is related to the energy appearance of those centers, energy centers, related to the human body, related to 7 points or levels of consciousness, related to 7 dimensions in the universe. And then humanity on Earth represents a particular dimensional level of consciousness of souls who are at this level because they have to be, and by their learning they potentially can go to the next level. So this is the initial discussion of cosmic plan, and that's a very heavy, long subject. But all these things basically started because I had freedom of mind and a very strong dislike of human authority, Earth human authority, revolting, generally, and, like the face of a devil. So I knew there was something greater than that, and I moved towards a higher authority. I wouldn't say it's not a guy with a long beard on a chair, but,
Yeah.
Those are childish notions to think of the creator of all that is as a man with a beard or something. But, humans on Earth are quite childish and, don't really seek their own maturity, generally. That's why we have so many problems here. So anyway, that's a very short or long monologue intro to the process.
Okay, well, while we were going through that, I had a couple of questions in the chat room here. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. I just muted.
Oh, okay. Anyway, one of them was, when I dream about me going into the future and aliens are present, would you say it's reality for me?
Well, actually, it would be impossible for me to make a call on that from just hearing that little brief, presentation of the experience. I mean, it could be many things. That's, people have to understand, of course, that a single experience can be interpreted in many ways and could indicate very different realities. So it could be, imagination, it could be psychological process, it could be a fragment of an out-of-body experience, it could be completely as the person thinks it is. So I really don't know. But, I'd have to know more about that dream and then give you a sense. You see, normally, the two primary types of dreams are psychological and spiritual. Psychological are basically in your head, in your own mind, a playing out of conflict, actually, in the deeper mind. The deeper personal mind has issues, anger or fear or sorrow, or something has not been finished in our learning or our dealing with experience. And then it comes out as imagery in the mind, in the dream. And so in that case, every figure is you. And that's a way of dream analysis. Every figure in the dream is an aspect of yourself, interacting as in the ways the mind does with itself. The other type of dream is spiritual or paranormal, which could be, out of body. And those have a certain vividness or sense of reality, sense of intensity and significance more than the psychological, because you're not alone. In the psychological, it's just phantasms in your mind. In the spiritual, you're actually interacting with other ensouled free will beings. And there's more of a quality of relationship and significance. It's very difficult you have to train the mind to actually recognize those for yourself. But the out-of-body experience has a different taste, regardless of content, than the dream, the psychological dream. So the person, I would just recommend think more deeply about it. And, these days when people ask me difficult questions, one of my answers is, well, if you want to know the answer, ask yourself. Meaning, ask your deep mind. What are the limits of your own mind? Do you know the limits of your mind? Do you know the limits of your knowing? No, you don't. In fact, there are no limits, except for those that we, maintain ourselves. So, if you want truth, seek within. The kingdom of heaven is within. Christian or non, the kingdom of truth and reality is in your heart, in your own mind. And all the answers are therein. I have no doubt about that, and that's an ageless wisdom teaching,
Yes, it is.
So the greatest teacher turns you back to yourself. So you realize, the divine within. Just like Jesus did.
Now, she added to that it's the intense emotions that she has, and it's almost every night. I don't know if that made a difference or not.
Well, normally out of body is not going to be every night. That sounds a little bit like a psychological process. On the other hand, abduction could happen every night. So I really can't say. It depends on the content. What's happening between her and the ETs? What's actually going on? What's the storyline? And what's the quality, what interaction is occurring? That's what we have to know.
Right.
So in general, if somebody brings me a dream, the first thing I want to look for is it a dream, meaning a psychological product, or is it an out-of-body experience? Or fragments of memory of an out-of-body experience? Normally it's actually, if it is out-of-body, then it's normally fragmentary, and the person recalls just portions of what happened, and distorted, meaning their memory of it isn't clear, and there's a mixture with the psychological too. So it's very challenging, and, one has to use intuition. But you see, the person can know it for herself, himself, herself, People really should train themselves in finding their own answers. It would help.
Yeah, I've had a lot of guests that said that exact same thing, and many of these were spiritualist teachers, in fact. She also asked, in your Buddhist journeys, did you ever come to seek the hollow earth?
That's interesting. Well, no, not really. But I believe, if you read if you read writings about Hollow Earth, which I've done a little, it seems that there's a linkage to Shambhala, or Tibetans, or Tibet, and Atlantis. And in the source of teaching that I work from a lot is called the Raw Material, or the Law of One series, which is channeled. And not all channeling is silly, actually. And they talk about that at the end of Atlantis, about 11,000 years ago, when the race had destroyed their continent, 3 groups were sent out, led by positive teachers, meaning elder extraterrestrials. And they went to Tibet, Peru, and Turkey. Peru, Turkey, and Tibet. And, you can see the many cultural elements of Tibet and Peru are similar. Clothing, houses, face, religion, even. But it seems that the end of Atlantis was associated partly with making use of hollow earth passageways. And there's some connection between remnants of Atlantis and hollow earth material, or hollow earth, culture. So I'm sure there is hollow earth activity, no doubt about that.
Yeah, I have a friend who's a radio show host, and he's written a lot on the hollow earth theory. His name's Dennis Crenshaw. I don't know if you've ever been on his show or not, but he's a very interesting man.
Yeah, I haven't. No, I don't know.
She also asks, what do you think about the 8th chakra that has been recently discovered?
My first question is, who is it that says they have recently discovered it? And what do they say it is? I've never heard of it. I follow a 7-chakra model. You see, when light enters a prism, it emerges as a 7-colored rainbow. That's enough for me to indicate that the primary division or spectrum of light is 7-fold in this solar system. And that correlates to, traditional ideas of 7 dimensions and 7 chakras from Hindus or from the East. And so I'm not that interested in new discovered chakras.
Actually, I've never heard of that one myself either, so it must be really new.
Well, it may not be really true.
That's another thought. They put a lot of stuff on the web, don't they?
Well, web or not web, I think the web has a lot of truth on it that's hidden and important. But in spiritual groups these days, it's the New Age thing. Everybody is a self-appointed leader. Me too. So everybody is somebody who says, I know something, I can help you. here's the truth. And sometimes they're mature, and sometimes they aren't. And not everybody is honest, and not everybody is mature, spiritually mature. So, just because somebody says it doesn't mean it is so. They think it's so, or they're a liar trying to make money from it, but just because they think it's so doesn't mean it's so. So I would want to know more about it. But, I don't really, to me, it's, I just shake my head. If you don't understand the 7 chakras and what's been given already, what great benefit are you going to have from newfangled things? If you don't understand, like in the metaphysical community in general, talking about chakras is like, oh, I know chakras, sure, yeah. But they don't know. Actually, they don't know. If I say to somebody who thinks they know about chakras, give me the description of the 7 chakras. What's the difference between 3 and 5? Tell me the relations between 2 and 6. They have no idea. Nothing at all. So, it doesn't interest me much.
Well, I can understand that, and I ain't going to begin to try to tell you I know about the chakras. I know that I've read about them. I know that each chakra has its own color, but to say I could remember which color goes with which chakra or anything else, I'm not going to sit there and stick my foot in it, because the minute you start asking questions, I'm going to look like an idiot.
Yeah, no, I don't really, it's not my intention to make anybody look bad or show up or be boastful or something. What I'm just saying is, if you don't deeply understand the teachings that have already been given, then you can't really make use of more advanced teachings either.
Right. And that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, that's really all I'm saying, because there's a lot of deep teaching that a lot of spiritual people assume they know, but they don't know. They assume they know what the higher self is, and what karma is, and and the laws of reincarnation, and the chakras and the energy bodies, but they don't. They think they know, and therefore they don't really get into it, and they don't know, and therefore they're actually unprepared for more advanced teaching.
I would tend to agree with you on that. Now, also, I personally had a question when I was listening to you earlier about the old souls. My question was, how can a person tell if they are an old soul or not?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's no proof. It's not a kind of scientifically provable matter now. Online, I developed 2 versions of what I call an ET quiz, the new ET quiz, which is in the new form 20 questions, which are just qualities and experiences and attitudes that are common to people who I would believe are wanderers or ET souls. The most common quality is a sense of alienation, being really different from the mass of humanity, not feeling comfortable belonging, not feeling that you fit in, and not even sure if you want to fit in. Meaning, has some sense that this human society and culture globally is kind of crazy. It's very crude. They're focused on material things. Their ideas about spirituality and religion are so controlling and so limited, and they don't seem to know what they're doing in this world, these earth humans. Now, the wanderer may have psychological problems. Raw material said wanderers become completely the creature of third density and body-mind. So there's body-mind-spirit. Those are that's 3 ways of talking about what we are now, or the equipment we're using. We have body, we have mind, we have a spiritual energy field. In body and mind, the wanderer or ET soul is very ordinary, and the body is not, special, and they often have psychological problem. Now, is their idea of being a wanderer the result of psychological illness, or is the psychological illness the result of being higher dimensional soul in a very distorted human culture, coming from a world of love and honesty and open truth and open communion with God and angels and universal glory, then incarnating in a human body which is sickly, and in a human society which is full of anger and selfishness and ignorance and arrogance and violence and injustice and confusion. Could it be that that incarnation in such a situation leads them to psychological illness? Of course. But there's no proof either way. So psychologists can say, oh, your wanderers are just psychologically damaged individuals trying to compensate by this delusional self-identity. And I say, thank you, Mr. Psychologist. Do you know that higher dimensions don't exist? No. Do you know about the structure of creation? No. Do you know about soul reincarnation? No. Of course not. So psychological explanation is interesting, but it doesn't actually prove anything. So wanderers ultimately have to check in with their heart to determine, why do I feel unhappy and strange and not fitting in to this society? Indeed, it can be psychological only. My parents didn't love me, or there was a lot of fighting in the family, or I just confused what I want to do with my life. On the other hand, there may be a spiritual basis for the sense of alienation. So wanderers commonly also can have an experience that their parents are not their real parents when they were children, or they had imaginary spiritual playmates, or they visited other planets in their dreams, or they would draw crystal cities and New Age, fancy sci-fi things, or they're interested in science fiction, cosmic life, or they want to do world service, or they love, plants and animals, or they're very gentle, or they're very shocked by the violence of humanity on Earth, or they're loners, or they walk to a different drummer. They march to a different drummer, and they really don't fit in some ways. So the person would have to look inside, and a bit of study would help, to understand how could such a thing be, How could it be that a soul from another dimension or another star system planet, another group of souls, another race in another part of the galaxy, how could I come here? How could that even happen? So then it would be valuable to read a bit of metaphysics and, see what you think. So you got to know it for yourself, but you absolutely can know for sure. But it's all inner work, and nobody can prove it.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. I met people that, didn't fit in. Would you say, in your opinion, that such a person would probably be happy with being a loner? It wouldn't really bother him since he didn't fit in anyway? He would be just as comfortable keeping to himself?
Often, yes. Often. The position of the loner or the hermit is traditionally where the monk goes that seeks enlightenment. The Buddha himself taught the monks, go to the forest and watch your mind. And, blessed, sort of praising the value of solitude in nature. Because in that way, the person can hear you can hear your soul. You can hear the deep mind. You can release the false easier when you're in solitude, and particularly in nature. And so the position of solitude is traditional for the seeker or the mystic, and that's not related to ET. And then also for the wanderer or ET soul in human body on Earth, solitude represents a kind of self-returning, or can. Now, of course, some people have solitude because, they feel unable to deal with society and they wish they could. And they, hate themselves and they're unable to get what they want in society, but they wish they could. That's a different thing. But the wanderer often would feel comfortable with themselves because they can be themselves. You can think what you want and read and dream as you wish to dream, and nobody will blame you or judge you for what you think in that kind of solitude. And so most wanderers are isolated, whether they're living solitude or not. Many are married and have children and families in the normal situation. But there absolutely is a connection between spiritual deepening and solitude and the preference of wanderers on Earth that don't feel comfortable with the current conditions of human society. So you're right.
Okay. Now, I wanted to, pardon me, real quick, like it's at that time of year, mention to everybody about your website so they can go learn more about you. The lady who was asking the questions earlier, she's actually put in the chat room that she's already been to your site and took the test and scored a 97. But the website is www.scottmandelker.com. That's SCOTTMANDELKER.com. And you can learn more about them there. Also, Scott, I figured out why I only had one of your books here. It was actually not the first book. It was the second one, Universal Visions. And what I had done is when I went to Amazon to, post them on here, they didn't have your other one. It was out of print, so I went with the one they did have. And now I understand now that I've been reminded. It makes sense to me.
Okay. Yeah, the first book is out of print, and the second book is Universal Vision, which is in print. And I also have a YouTube channel, and it's TWS, and then my last name, Mandelker. So TWS Mandelker. That's the name of the YouTube channel, or if you just Google Scott Mandelker plus YouTube, you can find it. We have about 100 videos now, and those 100 represent audio files from my Raw study group, or my Skype weekly study group. And the first series is Cosmic Plan. And so we talk about 7 dimensions and positive, negative ET, and Earth's dimensional shift, or, what's happening on the planet today, and angel groups, and, the mind of Creator. So I recommend those audios on YouTube for people who want to hear a deep presentation of these spiritual truths, not only about Cosmic Plan, but also about healing and balance, higher self, 7 chakras, catalyst, karma, meditation, lots of stuff.
Now, I understand you do a lot of work with the raw material. Now, from what I've studied on the internet and various books, most people equate Ra with the Egyptian god Horus. Are they really one and the same, or is there a misunderstanding involved with that?
As usual, there's misunderstanding. Misunderstanding is the norm for Earth humanity. So, we have to understand that. Ra was the name of the sun god to the ancient Egyptians. Ra, the source of that is this elder ET group claim that made contact through channeling in the early 80s. Did 106 sessions with the group in Kentucky, 2 of whom are still alive and still doing it, or not still channeling, but still developing teaching. Those sessions were channeling, and the group that apparently came through, that we now call Ra, claims to have been in contact with the pharaoh Akhenaten, I think the 18th dynasty in Egypt. And it's not that their true name is Ra, but that Akhenaten was calling for cosmic contact or for divine assistance with the consciousness of seeking one God. You know, the idea that the monotheistic view, God is one, all is one, God is all, that was understood by Akhenaten even at that time, 25 or 3,000 years ago. And, or not, actually I forgot the date. I think it's about 3,000 years ago. But the contact that Akhenaten got was this elder ET group, which is in late 6th density, which is associated with the level of higher self, which they say is about 2 billion, with a B, billion years older than 3rd density Earth human souls on Earth. And it's not that they are the sun god, but that their consciousness of oneness, their awareness that all is one, is resonant or analogous to the view that the sun, is the creator of the world, and God is one, and all is one, God is all. So the view, a monotheistic view, there's one God, and that one God is all, and all is one, that view is in accord with their understanding, that ET group. They say they are originally from Venus, but not now. And, a great amount of teaching was given in those 106 sessions through Carla Ruckert. And very, very important contact. To me, and I'm not a softie. I would say that it's the most accurate and important channeled document or channeling that we can find in the English language, without a doubt.
Okay, so from listening to you, the impression I'm getting is you might say Horus was sort of like Jesus in as much as they were both of this universal consciousness, in other words.
No, I'm not saying that at all.
Okay, then maybe I better get a little clearer on that one.
Yeah, first of all, I'm saying nothing about Horus. So anything said about Horus is coming from you, not me.
Okay, I got you.
The sun god is not Horus, anyway. So I'm not talking about Horus. I'm talking about the difference or the relation between Egyptian mythology and the reality of Akhenaten's contact and the reality of the channeling that happened in Kentucky in 1980s. So forget about Horus, but Akhenaten, like any spiritual seeker, was seeking divine assistance, divine contact. But because his mind appreciated unity, he ended up getting an elder ET group who also understands that all is one. And therefore the primary teaching is called the Law of One. And that's actually what the books are now called, the Law of One series. And that's Ra's, or this group's, message, is that all is one. And it's very simple, but they have a lot to say. So Akhenaten was considered a wanderer, or they said he was, and was seeking, some kind of cosmic contact or some kind of understanding from beyond. But his mind appreciated unity, and that's why he called for Ra. For him, the word Ra, as the sun god, was a representation of God is one, all is one. And from that mind, his seeking was able to be responded to or received by this group. And this group said, I am Ra. But it's not that they are some Egyptian guy with a funny headdress. It's actually just that their awareness of oneness fits his appreciation of oneness, which was the quality of his spiritual calling. Just that. That's all.
Okay. Well, also, the lady in the chat room was asking, does he envision a face on God, or does he see it as a source of energy that we are all linked to as one?
Face on God, what do you mean by that?
Okay, like if you go to church, for example, they got a picture of the big God with the white beard and hair, and then your ancient Eastern teachers are like, well, he's not a man like the church describes. He's really more of a universal energy that we are all linked together through, in other words.
Yeah, okay, well, you see, that's like a really heavy question. And it's actually advanced metaphysics. It's really saying, what is God? There are traditions east and west that personalize their understanding of God. So surely the Western Catholic Christian way is to see God as, is anthropomorphizing God. God is a guy, a man like us. The Hindus, the Krishna lovers do that too. Krishna is called the Supreme Personality. So that idea that God is a guy, with a face, is also going on in India. But I don't think, that's not helpful to me, because my understanding of God is that all is God, or in the raw material they say the one infinite creator. Their term is one infinite creator. You see, what was there before there was the Big Bang? Well, there was some kind of infinite intelligence or intelligent infinity, and those are the terms that Ra uses to describe creator. Intelligent infinity, intelligent energy, and intelligent infinity. So before there was a Big Bang that created matter or light or energy, there was the thought in a mind of a creator that it could be so. There was the thought to create a Big Bang. It didn't, you can say it came accidentally, but it came accidentally from what? So you can say the universe has been Big Banging all the time. It just pulses, goes out and comes back, and goes out and comes back. But where did that come from? Well, clearly it came from a mind. Clearly it came from some intentionality that it should be so. So, in my understanding, the one infinite creator, God equals the one infinite creator. There are many levels of God, It's not just, one either. So, the one infinite creator is God, or your idea of God to me is the one infinite creator. The one infinite creator is the source of the Big Bang. Therefore, the source of all light, all energy, all matter, and all consciousness, all mind, all bodies, all beings. The source of all that is the one infinite creator. But all light and energy and consciousness and bodies and beings is the one infinite creator. How? Because where did all that stuff come from? It came from a Big Bang, or it came from a mind that thought, so shall it be, let it be. It is so. Let it, so may this be. If it was created, it came from a thought of creation, or an intention of creation. Things happen because there are causes. Everything is causal. So the cause of creation is the intention of a creator that there be a creation. But that all creation is a manifestation of the creator. The one that created it all is it all. All of it is a manifestation of that one creator. So everything is God. The cup, the room, the sun, the ant, the good man, the bad man. It's all a manifestation of the one creator. Now, at a lower level of mind, we can say it's all interrelated by energy and consciousness stream. So there are energy and consciousness linkage interrelations between all objects of creation. That's, of course, true. So you can say we're all part of God. But actually, the teaching that I prefer is that we all are the one infinite creator. It's just that our consciousness and our perceptions are extremely limited. We're extremely veiled by cosmic design, actually, in human body, from seeing what we are and what is. And in my experience of my own spiritual awakening, whatever it is, I know that all is one, or I am that I am. And it's not a arrogant thing, because there's no personality there, or there's no personal separate self. And that's Buddhist teaching too, that the idea of self is illusion and the source of suffering and wrong. The idea of a separate fixed separate self is wrong. It's just not true. And there's no ego. So I never use the term ego, and the idea is that God is all, and all is God, and therefore you are all, and you are the one infinite creator. But we also have extremely limited perception and understanding, and we have lots of distortion, meaning lots of harmful patterns, or a great lack of love and a great lack of wisdom. But still, you are all that is.
Right. Pardon me. Well, I was listening to you, and it reminded me of what the Apostle Paul said. I forget where, but somewhere in the New Testament, he said something to the effect of that God may be all and in all.
Yes, absolutely. God is all, and God is in all. All is God. I mean, Yeshua Netzari understood that. His real name was Yeshua Netzari from Aramaic. The notion of Jesus, that's not his name. His name was Yeshua Netzari. And he was an enlightened teacher. I mean, Son of God. He said, you're a son of God too. I mean, to me, he was trying to show humanity what many have tried to show. First is that the kingdom of heaven is within, and that none come to the Father without him. But it's not in a church way. It's actually, there are many levels that those teachings can be understood from. And none come to the Father but through he, or Yeshua, also means you can't understand God without love, without absolute love and purity of heart and sacrifice to what's best for all. You can't understand God or the Creator or your identity with the Creator or your oneness with all without love, without surrender to the will of God, without a desire for the benefit of all. But with those qualities of mind, then one can understand all is one.
Right. Alrighty. Well, I'm noticing that we got like 7 minutes remaining, so I wanted to mention real quick to everybody to come back this Saturday. My guest will be Sophie Rose, and her book is called The Way of the Heart. And in it, she says that she has channeled through Jesus and Mary Magdalene, and she's bringing us similar teachings to the ones that Scott's sharing with us tonight. You could call it sort of a confirmation from a different source. In fact, what I've read from the book so far, all the information is really very, very much the same, so they're on the same page. Also, I wanted to remind everybody not to forget to stop by and visit my friends over at United Paranormal International. You can find their link on the left-hand side, where that logo is. It says, Director South Texas. Just click on that or that little link underneath it. It'll take you right there. I want to remind you, you can get my guest book, Universal Vision, at my front page at Amazon. Actually, I'll be moving it from my front page tomorrow into the archive and making it available there. Also, Scott, where can they get a copy of from elsewhere being ET in America?
You have to find it on eBay or Amazon used, or there are some new, but they're really expensive. So it's very hard to find the first book. But the second book, Universal Vision, it incorporates most of the most important information from the first book. And on my website, www.scottmandelker, which is SCOTTMANDELKER.com. There's lots of free, many essays and articles about wanderers and ETs there, and the YouTube channel, and I also have another page. So the book's not available, but they can get the information from other sources, other sites I have.
Okay. Well, the lady in the chat room that's asked so many wonderful questions said thank you to you. And I keep calling her the wonderful lady because, well, she shared her real name with me, but I don't know if she'd get upset with me for sharing it on the internet or not. And her username is kind of hard for me to pronounce. So I'm just going with the lady, and I hope she don't mind that. Maybe I can talk to her, somewhere and get the pronunciation later, in other words, but that's why I keep calling her that.
Yeah, well, thank you. I thank you. I thank her, too. And there are really good questions. And thank you also for having me on your show.
Well, Scott, I want to thank you for being here. I've had a rather enjoyable evening. Hopefully, with any luck at all, you'll be able to visit me again sometime in the future. But before you get out of here, maybe you can tell us real quick, of any upcoming events you might have.
No, I don't do events, but I do Skype counseling. By Skype, I do counseling with people around the world, and I have a weekly study group, the raw material discussion group. And we're also going to be starting a more open-ended weekly group when we have enough people. So they can just check my site or send you mail or. My email address is scott@scottmandelker.com. That's scott@scottmandelker.com. They can send email if they're interested, and I can direct them to what's going on. But only the Skype group and counseling are what I do now, outwardly.
Okay, and also, do you have any intentions for any new books anytime in the near future?
I actually wrote 4 books. Yeah, I know. Nobody knows that except for me. And the other 2 are available in PDF only. But the PDF is... I have another site, which is Talks with Scott Mandelker. It's actually not a www. It's HTTP and then talkswithscottmandelker.com. And there are many PDFs, compilations from the raw material, and also the other 2 books. The third book is called Book 3, which is appropriate. And those are essays that I wrote for the last 10 years, plus those compilations. So, and the fourth is up there too. So they're available in PDF, and it's all free. And if people want, there's lots of information.
Alrighty, well, thank you. I'm glad you shared that with us because I sure as enough didn't know about it. Also, want to ask everybody listening to please share this website with your friends. Share Scott's website. Help pass the word around. That's how information gets around, is word of mouth. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. You got something nice to say about it. Invite your friends back over here. And I want to remind everybody to have a pleasant Thanksgiving holiday. If anybody's going to be drinking during the holiday, get you a designated driver, and for God's sake, take care of yourself, because I look forward to seeing you back here again Saturday. And in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and call this show a wrap. I want to thank everybody for listening. You've been a wonderful audience. I love the questions you asked, and look forward to having you back again. And Scott, I definitely hope to have you back again.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Just let me know and we can arrange it. And thank you again for today.
Okay, thank you very much, and good night, audience. We hope to see you Saturday.